you know that we are recording this session, so it is going to be live, and it's going to be in Granicus. It's going to be a link so that you can access it later on. So if we pass you the microphone, if you need to ask a question, need to ask for the microphone, and it's going to be recorded too. Okay? So I guess I need to come to the center. Welcome to the annual fiscal year 22-23 year-end training for Auditor Controllers Department as well as the Purchasing Department. So does anybody missing a package? We need a count. Okay. So if you can raise your hand, if you're missing a package, we'll get you some more. But again, they're going to be available in our website as a link so that you're going to be able to access them at any given point. Okay, so if you are here today, my name is Karina Alvarez. I'm the Auditor Controller. So anything that has to do with money comes one way or another through our department. And you already know that. If it's adjusted, if it's spent, if it's deposited, it has to come through our department. And if you are here, it's probably because you have to be touching the financial records, the deposits, the checks, the travel arrangements, one way or another, anything that has to do with money. So if you are here, it's because you are touching the money. If you are here, it's because you are an accounting superhero. Okay? So basically, one of the things that you are very much aware is, number one, blink and our process starts again. Whether it's payroll, paying deposits, applying for a grant, anything else. Number two, it's more detailed than people think, and you know that. And sometimes you are not being told how great you are. So because of that, I wanted to make sure that everybody was reminded that we are superheroes. So yes, I'm wearing my cape. And I'm going to invite everybody to please stand up. Thank you. And if you can please, with me, assume superhero pose. Thank you. You may sit down again. And just to remind you, I'm going to pass around this tray so that you're welcome to pick up your own superhero sticker, okay, as a reminder for yourself that we are superheroes. Okay, so I'm going to pass the microphone to my staff, and for those of you who are not familiar, whether you're new or you have just seen the emails or you have been only on the phone, but this is Assistant Auditor Controller Yvonne Ramirez. This is Accounting Manager Amparo Chavez. This is Special Accounting Manager Vanessa Castañeda. Where did it go? Our Special Systems Manager, Edith Anaya, I'm sorry, went blank. There she is. Okay, so for those of you who are new or have been with the county for less than a year, I have been with the county slightly over a year, back with the county for slightly over a year. So a lot of the things are also new, or I just saw them a year ago for the first time in about 20 years. So you're not alone. And remember that you are a superhero, no matter what. So give us a call if you have any questions. This is going to be in our website, so you can view it again if there is any processes that you have any questions about. And I'm just going to pass the microphone to the ladies. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is our fiscal year-end training. We're going to go ahead and get started with our deposits. Just make sure at June 30th at 12 p.m. if you're having deposits for fiscal year 22-23, the deadline to submit those is going to be at noon. That's every year. So once it comes to July 1st, from July 1st to July 10th, you need to make sure that you're marking on your deposit permits if it applies to fiscal year 22-23 or the current fiscal year at that time, which is going to be 23-24. So that's going to be from July 1st to July 10th. You can also, I know departments prefer to submit their deposit permits separately, but if you have a deposit for the prior fiscal year and current fiscal year, you could submit it as an example listed here on the screen, prior year and the prior year and the current fiscal year. For your accounts receivable, you could either do it on your deposit permit that is allowed from July 1st to July 10th. You just need to indicate it's fiscal year 22-23, or you could also do it on a memo. When you're submitting your accounts receivable memo for us to book a receivable, make sure that you're putting in your OR key, your object code, and the amount expected to be received. So make sure that when you're doing this, if you're doing a memo, that you don't duplicate it by putting it in a deposit permit. So if you're including it in your deposit permit, don't include it in as a memo because it'll be a duplicate posting of that account receivable. So what we end up doing at the end of the year, we post anything received on your deposit permits for fiscal year 22-23, and on your memos, we book them as receivables at the end of the fiscal year. This is an example of a receivable memo. We're going to go ahead and upload the presentation as well to our website because I know it's tiny on your guys' handouts, but what we need is the OR key, the object code, and the amount expected to be received. And please address those to Ivan Ramirez. Does anybody have any questions so far? This is an example of what your ledgers look like when you run your GL detailed transaction report. At the end of the fiscal year, the top portion, that highlighted amount, that is the recording of your receivable at June 30th. If you run your ledgers again at July 1st, you will see that that receivable is being reversed. And then you will see either your deposit coming in or if it's a journal that is being transferred from another account in your journal with the credit into your account. Does anybody have any questions regarding receivables or deposits so far? Okay, let's move on into claims. The deadline to submit your fiscal year 22-23 claims will be July 10th at noon, Monday, July 10th. No exceptions. Anything that is received after July 10th will be posted into the current fiscal year. We also have an audit requirement. This has been for the last couple of years. If you're submitting a claim and we've already, as of July 1st, up until September 30th, I'm sorry, please make sure that you indicate that it's fiscal year 22-23. After July 10th, we can no longer post into the current fiscal year, but we do have to flag that transaction in our system that it was a prior year claim that is being paid in the current year. This is because we have to report that to our outside auditors. So make sure that even if it's already past July 10th, that you're still indicating in your claims that it's for fiscal year 22-23. So what you do is on your upper right-hand corner, you put P22-23 and fiscal year 22-23 on the body of your claim. For your current year claims, if you're submitting a claim between July 1st and July 10th, since we're working with prior year claims and current year claims, make sure that you mark that claim. If it's a current year claim, mark it as C2223 on the upper right-hand corner and fiscal year 23-24 in the body of it. This way we know, since we're getting so many claims, and especially because a lot of us like to wait till the end of the year, so we get so many claims, and we need to make sure that we're posting it to the proper fiscal year. So this is an example of what the claim looks like and how you should submit it. The P2223 on the upper right-hand corner, and then fiscal year 22-23 on the body of the email. I also want to let everybody know that as of July 1st, this will be the template that will be used for claims. Some claims are being done with a stamp for your POs. That will go away. Our auditors brought that up to our attention, so we need to be consistent with the claim format. So if you guys are using the stamp, you need to make sure that as of July 1st, you use the claim format. I went ahead and uploaded it to our county website. It's available in PDF and in Excel format. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, yes. So if it's for every type of claim, straight claims, POs, we're using the same claim format. Mm-hmm. So encumbrances, we'll have Edith talk about encumbrances.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay. What is an encumbrance? An encumbrance is a commitment to expend resources such as purchase orders and sign contracts for the purchase of goods and services to be received in the future. It does not represent any expenditure, the current period, but only in a commitment to expend the funds. They are treated as reserves, meaning the funds are set aside for the future expense. In order to have a justified encumbrance, it must have the contract or the minute order included. It must be submitted to the CEO and Budget and Finance by June 30th. Instructions of how to complete the year-end encumbrance request were included in the 517 email that was sent. Also, once this presentation is uploaded, you'll be able to access the link for the form. Purchase orders. All purchase orders will be canceled unless there's a contract or approved justification that has been submitted to the CEO or Budget and Finance with the PY request. This is an example of the backup that we expect with the encumbrance. The first form is the request. The second one is the minute order. And the minute order continues. The last example on this is the ledgers from One Solution.
Moving on into the authorized signature list, just make sure that you submit that authorized signature list to us by June 30th. This is done every fiscal year, so we have to have it on July 1st. Otherwise, you won't be able to pick up claims. You won't be able to sign the payroll certificate. So just make sure that this is submitted to us by July 1st. You also submit this form when you have a change in staff, when you have a change in department head. That's the other occasion when you also submit this form to us.
Empower, where can we find that form?
I believe that form is uploaded to our county website. If it's not, I will go ahead and email it to you. And then I know other departments have asked about, do we have to submit all signatures when you have a change in staff? And when you have a change in department head, yes, because I mean, it's the department head is the one that's changing. But when you have a change in staff, It would just be your department head signature and whatever staff is going to be, it's either going to be payroll, if it's going to be payroll, accounts payable, whatever they're going to be authorized to sign off on. You don't need everybody's signature, again, only when you have a change in department head.
For new employees or new users for One Solution, this is the form that you need to submit to me. This, you would provide me with what type of access you want for the new user. The One Solution Security Request Form is a form for users to have access to enter POs, approve PRs, input PAFs, and also approve. You would also need to submit that to me, and both of those forms are found in the county website. But if you need it, I can email it to you. The Federal Financial Assistance, also known as the CFA, has a deadline of August 1st. Please submit the schedule to Vanessa Castañeda. This will include the ledgers that will tie to One Solution, invoices, award letters, anything that we can reconcile to, because this is something that the auditors are very strict on. Supplies and inventory, the deadline for this is July 10th. The deadline for applicable departments to submit the year-end supply inventory to the auditor controllers. And below are the applicable departments. Does anybody have any questions?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be going over the fixed assets. The deadline for the I'm going to be going over the deadline for the fixed assets, the statement of general fixed assets, the PTR form, and the fixed asset object codes. So the statement of general fixed assets, that'll be sent out on June 20th, 2023. And the deadline, it'll come with the statement, and it'll have a form for your department to fill out. And that form, we need to receive it by July 10th of 2023. That form and all of the backup, you need to submit it to Rocio Gutierrez by July 10th of 2023. And we are, oh, never mind. Sorry. Go ahead. This is an example of what the statement looks like. It's basically coming from One Solution, and it has all of your department's fixed assets. This is what the statement looks like. You have to fill out your department, your org key, and if you have various org keys, we're going to send various statements for you to fill out for each org key. And if you have, for example, you're going to put the amount at the top, which is the one provided in the statement. If you have any additions that you're currently in the process of purchasing, but it's not reflected in the statement, you're going to have to add them right there in section 2. And then in section 3, you're going to deduct any PTRs or any equipment or something that you're getting rid of, but it's not reflected still in the statement. You have to add it on there and then attach the backup as well. And then make sure that it's signed by your department head. And if you go to our website under the trainings and materials, at the bottom where it says policy and procedures, there's something called statement of general fixed assets. We have instructions on how to complete them. So if this is the first time you're doing it, you can go there and it'll show you step by step how to complete it. If not, you can always call us, but it is on our website in case you guys need further instructions. This is what our PTR form looks like. It stands for Property Transfer Request Form. The previous slide, it's where it's located. It's on our website. So if you are getting rid of anything such as equipment, vehicles, anything that's in the fixed assets, you need to fill out this form and you need to send it to us so that we can have everyone approve it. And then once we receive it, we remove it from the fixed asset list once it's been approved. And each department has to contact facilities. We don't contact facilities for you. You have to contact them so that they can go and remove, the item or whatever it is that you're getting rid of. Oh, that too. And then this is a cheat sheet for our object codes for fixed assets. This one is, if you're purchasing a fixed asset, we highly encourage, and our auditors, they really encourage us to use these object codes, because every month Rocio is going to be checking these, and that's how we capture the fixed assets. If they're paid out of somewhere else, it's very hard for us to track. And then the auditors come back to us, and then we're the ones that, we get in trouble for this. So these are our fixed asset object codes. It's also found on our website, so you guys can have like a little cheat sheet, as well as this cheat sheet for object codes. It's a little guideline. If you're curious as to how much do you need, to capitalize equipment, anything that's greater than 7,500, it must be capitalized. Weapons, that there's no cost; those have to be capitalized either way. Anything that's less than 7,500, but you have to buy in parts for it to work. If it's 50,000 or more, that also has to be capitalized. Like, for example, like our security systems, things like that. Anything that's an addition or a betterment to the building would be considered structures and improvements. That has to be $50,000 or more. So if your office is, redoing the floor and everything, and it adds up to 50,000 or more, that will need to be capitalized, and it will need to be coded to that object code. Computer software, that is a $25,000 minimum, so that also has to be capitalized. Does anybody have any questions so far regarding fixed assets? No?
Okay, just making sure everybody has a copy of it. Do we all have a copy of it? Yes? Okay, moving on into journal entries. We include this as part of our year-end training because we do have new staff. There's always questions on how to move funds from one fund to another, depending on the type of fund, depending on if you're doing a correction or not. So what is a journal used for? A journal is used to transfer services from one department to another. It's to correct a key punch error on a claim, on a deposit permit, or on another journal entry, and to transfer funds as a result of a budget adjustment resolution, budget amendment resolution, or a transfer of appropriation. There is an audit requirement. Again, same thing, same concept as our claims. Whenever you're submitting a journal entry over to our office, if it pertains to fiscal year 22-23, after July 10th, you still need to submit it from July 1st through September 30th, indicating that it's a fiscal year 22-23. Anything after July 10th, we will post into the current fiscal year, but we will flag it for our auditors because they do ask us for a report of what was processed after our year end that pertains to the prior fiscal year. Again, on your journal entry, make sure that on the body of your journal entry, you're putting a big PY 22-23. And this is from July 1st through September 30th. We always include this ORCI and object codes fund type for your reference. We have your general funds that start with a 10, your special revenues that start with a 15 to a 2, your capital projects with a 4, your debt services with a 4-5. These are all your governmental funds. Then you have your proprietary funds. Your enterprise funds start with a 50. Your internal service funds of 5-2, and that makes up your proprietary funds. You have your private purpose funds, which is your retirement system that starts with a 5-4. Your special districts that start with a 5-5, And then you have your fiduciary funds that start with the 70 to an 89. You have your object codes. Object codes, your ones are your assets, which is most likely the one that you see the most is your claim on cash. Then you have your payables, which are your liabilities. You have your fund balance, anything that starts with a 3. Your revenues start with a 4, and then your expenses start with a 5. I also want to note that as a result of GASB 34 and now GASB 84, some of your funds have been reclassified as now either special revenues. So if they start with a 70, we still left them with that OR key that was originally assigned, but some of your funds, just be careful and make sure you check. Some of your funds are no longer, if they start with a 7, they're no longer fiduciary. They might be special revenues. Over the years, there's departments that had started off as a general fund that are now a special revenue. These are your departments. You have your child support 1022, animal control 1034, behavioral health 1046, social services 1047, social services 1049, California Children's Services 1053. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, moving on into the type of transfers. You have your intra-fund transfers. Your intra-fund transfers are transfers between same governmental type funds. As an example, it could be a general fund to a general fund transfer or a special revenue to a special revenue transfer. When you have a general fund to a general fund transfer or a special revenue to a special revenue, you're going to use a 552, an intra-fund object code, both for the debit and for the credit. As an example, we have the general fund reimbursing the general fund. So we have the sheriff's office reimbursing the auditor's office for those the receipt books. So if you're a general fund department and you want a receipt book, it will be coded to a 552. Example 2 is a special revenue to a special revenue transfer. You have Public Works reimbursing the road billing for road billing expenses. So Public Works, the fire department is a special revenue 1501, same as same as Public Works. So this would also constitute a 552. Then we move on into different governmental type funds. There are different classifications that are allowed when you're transferring between different governmental type funds. You could transfer between an expense and a revenue. You could also transfer between an unearned revenue and a revenue, and I'll discuss it in a little bit because this is one of our changes as a result of GASB 84 and GASB 34. And then you have your transfers in and transfers out as a result of a budget adjustment. Example number 1 is a special revenue to a general fund transfer. So we have the general fund being reimbursed for services. So we have ORKey 1556 charging their services and reimbursing, I believe it was the CEO in this case for services. Your second example is a special revenue, and I put in parentheses an old trust fund because some of your old trust funds were reclassified as special revenues to a general fund. So in this example, you either transfer revenue from a special revenue to a general fund or to another special revenue. So now, when you get funds from the state and you get an advance payment, instead of recording it as revenue, you need to record it as unearned revenue. This has been one of the findings that the auditors came back to us on, indicating that whenever we're receiving advance funding and we don't have allowable expenses for that funding that we're holding, if we don't have allowable expenses, it needs to be recorded as unearned revenue. In the past, when you guys were using your trust funds, it used to go into your fund balance, which was your 301000. we can no longer hit fund balance. So whenever you get those monies in, if it's an advance payment that you don't have qualifying expenses for, you need to record it in the 201000. So you're just swapping over 301 with 201 if it's an advance payment. If you have a cost reimbursement grant and you are getting those monies, you've already incurred the expense, it would be just the same process where you just record it as revenue when you get your monies in. Also, I don't know if you guys are aware, but when you use your 000 account, most of your accounts will have a 000 and a 001. Your 000 are your assets, liabilities, and fund balance. So if you're transferring from your unearned revenue, you're transferring from your assets, liabilities, and fund balance. So your OR key will end with a 000, not a 001. Your operating expenses, that ends with a 001.
Let me add to that. Even though the account is named unearned revenue, and normally you will associate revenue as an income account, this is a liability account. It starts with a 2. So it is an earned revenue, it is a liability account, okay?
Does anybody have any questions so far regarding this? It's not a new concept, but it's something that our auditors made us aware of that we needed to implement. Okay, moving on to example number 3. This is a special revenue reimbursing a general fund. Not reimbursing, transferring over, and this is an example of a pass-through payment and a budget transfer. When one fund is the recipient of the funds and then they're working with somebody else, like a third-party grant, let's say social services is working with behavioral health, social services is the recipient of the grant, and behavioral health is processing some type of service for them, then the funds will come into social services as revenue, and they would be transferring it out to the department that will be incurring the expense. This is an example of your JE format. Make sure that it has who it's coming from, the initials of the person that's completing it, a description of what it is that you're trying to transfer. Dates are very important. Make sure you include dates. Also, your debit and your credit. Always make sure that you have your debit followed by your credit. Sometimes we get credits and debits first, and we process so many journal entries that we might end up processing it backwards. So make sure you put your debit and your credit. And then also make sure that you put your contact information in there in case we have any questions so that we can know who to contact. Next up, we have purchasing with the year-end training process.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I want to start off with introducing you to the staff. I only have 2 staff members here right now, but Gabriela Liu is the new systems coordinator, and Vanessa Ramirez, she handles our surplus and new vehicles and much other stuff. But anyway, I just didn't know if you guys had known there were some changes, so I want to let you know. So starting off with the purchase request, ensure that the accounts that you're using have sufficient funds. We get a lot of requests that come in that the funds are not available. We have to hold on to them and then track them, and it just creates a little extra work. So check your accounts before you enter your requests to make sure there's funds to cover. Fixed assets must be approved with a minute order and date, so you need to ensure that you're attaching those documents as well and then placing it in the notes. We'll ask questions because sometimes the descriptions aren't clear enough. So your description needs to be very clear so the vendor knows what you're requesting as well as us. And then in one solution, there's a tab for remit to if the vendor has a special address that they want the remit to go to. So you need to make sure that you make that change. Conforming invoices, those are for anything that you have an invoice for, such as like your, oh, I thought it was on. Oh, get closer. Well, thought my voice was real loud anyway, so sorry, I didn't want to scream at you. So on your confirming, I'm trying to read this, so should be used for your standard invoices. So like if you're paying the cell phone or, well, cell phones are different, a little different, but, you know, yeah, utilities or things like that. And then indicate if it's a current year, 2022, 23, your new year, you'll indicate it's a 23, 24. Because then it depends on the PO. And then when submitting invoice payments, be sure to send a copy. This is really, really important because auditors will send that copy of that is the indicated copy along with the warrant. And then the vendor will know exactly how to apply that credit. So that's super important for your Office Depot, your Shred It, we do it also for Costco and for Smart and Final because we want to make sure that they get applied correctly because otherwise sometimes we'll get a credit hold placed on us. And then it makes more work. We have to research. So please make an extra copy so they'll send it with the warrant. Okay? Next is the prior year encumbrances. So when you're doing a prior year, you're going to indicate that on the description. And then when you're using them, you want to make sure that you're watching it very closely because you could be double encumbrances. If you've asked for a PO and you forgot that you were using your PY funds, so make sure that you watch those carefully throughout the year, not just at the end of the year. Did I miss that? Oh, I did. Oh, I went down instead of across, I think. Sorry. Yes, on the confirming, I should have went to that page and I forgot. Indicate your fiscal year, like I mentioned, submitting the copy. I said that, right? Supplements. Attach backup documents for the reason why you're supplementing, or at least to the minimum, put it in your notes, okay? If it's because you forgot shipping, if the item costs more, you know, than you thought it was going to be, or the quote was, just indicate why you're supplementing it. And then your notes, I love to use notes, so always use your notes. There's notes that are just for the PR, and that doesn't print anywhere. Prints before all your line items, and prints after your line items. So be sure to use that. And hopefully you've already started looking at your CDD reports to make sure that things have posted correctly, number one, and number two, that you don't have any outstanding invoices. Watch for that as well. And then when requesting, I do.
Rhoda, on the notes, I also like if the IT department provides you with a quote, says, and you placed a work order for that, I want you guys to put the work order on there just so that later on says you guys purchased the item,
says, but you can refer back to it, says, and have the IT department install whatever you purchased, because right now says we're not purchasing anything, but we've given you guys requested work orders for those quotes, and then you can have one of our techs do that. Says, but at least with that work order, it'll help you guys know that that item was purchased for this work order.
Oh, how's that? That's why I didn't want it real close. Anyway, and on your blankets, I given how we want the descriptions to read, okay, and do it in the caps like that. It really helps us on our eyes, actually, when we're working with them. And then I mentioned the type 1 and all that, so that's already, I was on IT, wasn't I? So, and Chris, I think you already mentioned about the jobs and stuff, your work orders. Okay, next is object codes. I wanted to make sure that when you are working with IT that you're using the proper object codes, so I've listed some here for you. Your CAL cards, remember, it's for travel related only. I understand there are certain situations that some vendors do not take POs, so those need to be emailed to me requesting if you can use a CAL card for the purchase. Okay, and training and things like that, like you're scheduling your training classes and stuff like that. That's okay to use your CAL card. New request, there's a form to complete. If you need the form, you can contact procurement and we'll send you the form. You complete it, you send it to the CEO office for approval. Once they approve it, they'll send it to us and we'll create the card. And then whenever you need increases on your limits for whatever reason, you have additional training, things like that, that your normal limit does not cover, your request will come to purchasing office to request to increase those. And when you do, you need to tell us how much you want to increase to. Okay? So if you don't know what your limits are, you can contact us and Gabby and I can tell you what your limits are. Surplus items. This has become a giant monster for us, so please have patience with this. I'm in the process of working with the Sheriff's Department to get that area all cleaned out as soon as possible. We have quite a few pending right now. We will work with each department to try to get it resolved as soon as possible. Whenever you're doing your assets, make sure that you're processing, like your vehicles. If you're selling your vehicles, you need to have your asset form filled out and completed and submitted to us. And I think sometimes they send it with fleet when they request, right? That's a PTR. Yeah, the PTR. Yeah, for your surplusing vehicles. So that's probably, well, anyway. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yes, Chris.
And you have all your information and data on it, so it comes to us. So send us your property transfer requests. It says just on servers. Monitors, we don't want them. Those ones, you guys take. The monitors, you guys can send them automatically to the Quonset hut. It says that's something that we get stuck with on accident, and we have to go and do the same thing that you guys are doing and sending them out to Quonset hut. Those things we don't need. It's just anything that's going to have a hard drive that you do have. Says we need to get rid of all that information off your guys' PCs and servers. So please send us this property transfer request. When you see our guys leaving your office with items that look like it would have a hard drive in it, says stop them, say, hey, hold on. Says, I'll get you a property transfer request, because those things get stuck in our department and we get kind of lost. And my guys normally, they don't tell me. They don't tell me that they just took off with stuff from your guys' office. I know they should, but they really don't. So you guys would be the ones that would see them more than I would. So stop them, get that property transfer request, and give it to them right then and there when they're leaving with your property.
And remember that if it's not on a property transfer request, it's assumed that it's still in your department and in your possession, and you're still responsible for those fixed assets. Okay, can you tell us what a Quonset hut is?
The Quonset hut kind of looks like a hangar for the planes, but for us, we have it. It's at the old hospital. It says. The county hospital right next to the sheriff's department. That's where we place all your guys' stuff when we are going to auction it off. And a lot of that, it's just, the guys just take it automatically over there. They don't get facilities to take it out. So it not only does it get taken out of your department, it gets taken out of my department. I have no idea it's leaving anywhere. So all that items that you guys just had taken out of your department is still on you. It says, so that's why you want to stop them before they take off with it, because they don't know anything about this property transfer request. It says, I try to explain it to them, but they don't. So you stop them at the door. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, and I need your help with the surplus because there are items going out there that we don't even know end up there. And it's just getting piled and piled and it becomes junk. So we need to see it first. Thank you. We need to see it first. So what I'm going to start requesting is any surplus items that we want pictures. And the reason why is because we are very, very short-staffed. There's only 4 of us, and it's hard for us to get out there and make sure what you're saying is surplus is being surplused. Okay, there is an ordinance for surplus, so we have to follow that and make sure that we're doing justice to it. I know sometimes you think it's just trash, but unfortunately it is what it is. But there is a junk committee. So if there is junk, take a picture of just the junk stuff. I can send that off with the memo and get it approved to just junk it. And then the good stuff we'll try to sell. Okay? Any questions?
I have a question. Is there a process to transfer from one department to another or from one grant to another? Like if I wanted to keep, I see that somebody has a nice desk and I need a desk, or I need a conference room table soon. If anybody's getting rid of one, please let me know.
Absolutely. So anytime that you're looking for something, and matter of fact, there is a department that asked me about this the other day, and I cannot think of who it was. They wanted some chairs, that hard plastic chair with the metal. Oh, it was.
I have 8.
We have 8.
You know what? I got a really nice set donated to our office.
Good.
And you guys, or the facilities picked up our old stuff and hopefully trashed it because it was covered in urine.
Yeah, but we have to do the trash part of it. You can't just trash it.
No, Lorenzo, our estate property coordinator, was working
Okay.
on all that because
Okay.
it was covered in nasty stuff. That's
Yeah,
why we needed
understood.
The hard plastic so we can clean it.
Yes,
Not
yes,
raw.
yes.
But
So
I
we
think-
do have 8 that's come into my office, so.
We got 8 donated, brand new ones.
Good, wonderful, wonderful. But yes, we have binders if you guys need binders, monitors if you need monitors, because the ones that are going out there, they still work. You know, and I mean, you wouldn't think that they'd go out to a Quonset hunt if they don't work. I mean, if they work, but there are. And then we have desks, we have filing cabinets, we have all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So please call us and we'll take you out there, meet you there, whatever it takes to help get rid of it. Okay? All right. Thank you. And you all have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Rhoda. Okay, everybody, does anybody have any questions about deposits? I'm going back to the beginning so that if you forgot to ask your question earlier, this is the time. Is there any questions? Are there any questions about accounts receivables? Are there any questions with claims? With year-end wording or the format? Did we talk about the format of the claim form? That for a while we had several departments that were using a stamp and wanted to say paper. That's not going to be allowed, so just reiterating that. Is there any questions with encumbrances? Are there any questions with the authorized signature list? Or a new user request form? The one solution request form? Are there any questions as to what level of authority do you need to give anybody? Is that very clear? How about the CFAs? Okay, I would like to have a training just specifically of the CFAs. For those of you, if you don't know whether the CFA applies to you or not, if your department is not receiving and spending $750,000 a year from federal or pass-through money, this is not for you. So, but if you do, even if it's from one program and another program and add up to 750 or more, this is for you, and it has to be very specific, and it has to tie to the one solution records. Okay. It is called the schedule. There you go. Is it the Schedule of Federal Financial Assistance? Okay. I don't see the E in CFA, but yes, that's what it is. Supplies inventory. No? Any questions about fixed assets? Any questions on the classifications or any doubts as to how to classify a fixed asset? Are there any questions as to whether the usage may determine something? If you have a group of, or something that constitutes a lot of desks, or you purchase something as a grouping, and that goes over the threshold, is there any questions as to what the threshold is going to be? Okay. And property transfer request. The cheat sheets or the fixed assets, please use those as references if there's any other questions. Any journal entries? Oh, come on. I know you're superheroes. Any memo format, JE transfers? No? Purchasing? Yes.
Can you explain the changes between the general fund and all that are going to be special funds?
Okay, the changes between the general fund and the special funds. Part of that has to do with the implementation of GASB 84. So it is something that, if you pretty much go with that, all of federal government, all of the government entities had to analyze the funds and had to go one by one on whether the usage, the intention, where the money was coming from, was how it was determined, and whether it was going to still be custodial fund or not. And I'll let Amparo finish with that explanation.
Yes, so based on the description that you provided when you had set up your trust funds, so this, the GASB 84 entails all of your trust funds. It's reviewing based off of a certain criteria what your trust funds were and if they still met the classification of being considered a trust fund. Depending on that criteria, if it no longer met the classification of being considered a trust fund, they were moved up into a special revenue. Our auditors actually wanted us to label them as part of your general fund, but it was going to be very difficult for us to track it under general fund, so we left them as a special revenue. I would want you, whoever's working on your trust funds, whoever's your fiscal manager, or if you're assigned as your auditor, to review the classifications, go over your accounts and review the classifications. And if you believe that it should not be classified as a special revenue, then reach out to us. We could make that change, but we were on a deadline and we had to make that change from a trust fund into a special revenue. Most of them were special revenues. Some did stay as trust funds, but they will no longer be considered trust funds. They are now called custodial funds. The deadline, that should have been implemented as of fiscal year 2021. We were late in the implementation process, so we started reaching out to departments to have them implemented as of fiscal year 22-23.
So the specific date needed to be implemented no later than July 1st, 2020, the middle of the pandemic.
So we still have time in case we want to change
Going forward, either way, GASB 84 is here to stay. So if you have new funding that needs to be analyzed, pretty much we're going to continue following the same guidelines, but GASB 84 is going to continue being implemented and analyzed for each one of the funding sources that are coming that normally would have been considered trust. Now it's going to have to be determined whether it's still trust or custodial or anything else. Thank you. Any other questions about GASB 84, custodial funds, trust funds? Okay, how about purchasing year-end processes? Any questions about POs? Are we clear on the dates, on when everything is going to expire, on when we need the paperwork, the wording in the documentation that needs to be submitted to our department, or what needs to be submitted to purchasing department? Okay, yes, a question.
We're still getting orders.
Give me one second.
We're still getting orders for hardware and supplies.
And we're no longer allowed to order anymore until next fiscal year. So purchasing cannot place new POs right now. So if you're going to place a work order right now for any hardware, it's going to have to wait till the new fiscal year. We can't purchase it right now. It says it's just we won't get the invoice in time. And if you guys do get permission from purchasing to order anything, it says you'll be asked to place the order yourselves because we cannot encumber anything for you guys in our department. It says it's too late of notice and we won't get the invoices in time.
Any questions about that? Yes.
I have a question about the B numbers. I have a question about the B numbers. Can we PY the B numbers if we still haven't received the merchandise, or the B numbers is a purchase order, but
Just like, you know,
Oh, does it work? So those, if you have purchase orders, like the B ones that are expenses that you had, you know, set a budget for this year, but you haven't gotten the item yet or you haven't paid for it yet and you want to encumber the funds, you're going to have to fill out an encumbrance form. And that's for GSA to review. They review them first, and then if they get approved, they give them to us, and then that's when we assign the PY numbers. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any other questions about purchase orders?
Since I've been asking a lot of the departments that have placed their own orders for hardware and software for Dell, says a lot of that you guys are waiting for me to provide you with the invoice, but I don't know that you guys placed that order. So if you'd like, you provide me with your PO and I can pull up that invoice for you so that you can pay it in advance. Says I have access to CDW. I can provide you guys with invoices on that. All I have to do is go online. You provide me with your POs. Says if you guys are missing anything from that or Dell, I can provide you with those invoices. Just ask me.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much. You know how to reach us. If you have any questions or there was any doubt about what some of the questions I got answered, you can refer back to the recording that is going to be uploaded, or you can always give us a call. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.